Good afternoon. This is Tamrad Madhin, co-host of the Patricia McDougall celebrity photographer. Today she's not coming because of her son's graduation party. And I'm here sitting with a great friend of the Ethiopian community, the former chief of staff for the late council member Jim Graham. Today we'll share some of the great times we had with the council member and him, because this gentleman has been representing him most of the time whenever he was not available to come to our events and programs. Today, our community is very, very saddened to hear the days of our friend, council member Jim Graham. We haven't heard that he was sick. It was really a surprise to see it on the magazine, on the news media. I just got a call, I think within an hour or so, from an Ethiopian TV host, Gera. He just said, Tamra, did you know that your friend died? I was very, very shocked. Jim was an amazing individual. I can say he's one of the very few elected officials. Am I on line? Is it? Yeah. Okay. I'm one of the few elected officials who made attempts to bring in together the diaspora communities. He wanted to share with the community how the American democratic system works. He opened up his office. Whenever there is a problem, we just can't call him directly. He answers his own emails. If you can't get him, we have him online to come and talk to us. So it was we have an amazing experience with council member Jim Graham. And I believe you have worked with him for about what?
10 years.
You have worked with 10 years, so you know more about him. And tell us what exactly happened in the last few years. I mean, I haven't seen him. I haven't been exchanging emails with him, but I haven't seen him. So tell us, what was going on.
Well, Tamad, first of all, I want to send greetings to those who are listening and watching here around the District of Columbia, around the nation, and all the way back to Ethiopia, if there is any audience out there. I thank you for this invitation. Yes, Jim Graham and myself are no strangers to the Ethiopian community. We are very much aware and became aware very early on that we sit here in the District of Columbia, the nation's capital. We are the concentration of the largest concentration rather of Ethiopians living outside of Ethiopia, and we were very proud to represent all of you.
Thank you so much.
Well, yes, it is unfortunate that we are here in this content. Councilmember Graham had contracted a disease that went into his intestines, but this was just something recent. It is not something that he had been fighting with for years, so that everyone becomes a little bit aware. It is just something that happened in the past 3 months or so. Then he went in and out of the hospital, George Washington University to be precise. And then next thing we know, we are here at this crossroads of the sad news of his passing. We are very happy and glad for the legacy that he leaves behind to this great city and the many lives that he touched all across the board, not just within the Ethiopian community, although we're here to speak specifically about those impacts. I want to highlight that those impacts reached out to the community to which he belonged, which is the GLBT community. He also was very impactful and left his footprints within the Latino community, of course. As a matter of fact, the largest concentration of Latinos that live here in the United States, in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., were concentrated in the ward that he represented, Ward 1, which coincidentally sits right in the smack middle of what the District of Columbia is. He often referred to it as the little Austria of Washington, D.C. Why? Because all the other wards that go around Ward 1 and the diamond that Washington, D.C. is represented, and they each touch Ward 1 a little bit in its way. So, and there's just many anecdotes in which we'll get into as this conversation progresses. Thank you again. Well, I'm happy to be here and share with everybody and the Ethiopian community in specific, and speak a little bit about Jim Graham and what he represented to us all.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. Before we go, can you tell us what kind of preparation is made about his funeral, and how do it like us to engage as friends?
Yes, of course, absolutely. We are, of course, inviting all the community, all the District of Columbia and beyond. Services will be held on Friday at the Wilson Building, which is the City Council building, the building where he served throughout his tenures as a legislator here in the District of Columbia. The district building is located at the crossroads of 14th and Pennsylvania Avenue, just a couple of blocks from the White House. The body will lay in repose between 12 noon and 5 p.m. We are inviting everyone who wishes to come to please come on by. We'll have a small program that will begin at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then with elected officials and dignitaries. And then we will have an open mic session so that all his friends can employ about a minute or so of time and share their experiences or what they remember about Jim Graham.
When is going to be the funeral?
The funeral will follow the very next day on Saturday at All Souls Church. The viewing will begin at 10 a.m., followed by an abbreviated mass at noon, and then we'll have a repast immediately after.
Okay, thank you so much to give us the information. Well, let's go back to Jim. As you said earlier, he has really left a lot of footprint in the city, especially when I think of Jim Graham. I mean, he has an amazing interest for Ethiopia because as himself as an immigrant from Scotland, he was always telling me that how it is very important to share our history and culture. And once he went to Ethiopia, everything changed too, because the moment he came back from Tuma, he told me, I have seen a lot about, I'm sure you were with him for about a month, right?
2.5 months to be precise.
Were you at my long in Ethiopia?
That's right. Our first visit was in 2004, and then we went back in 2008.
Oh, I don't know the time. That was in North Carolina. Okay, I didn't know the second one. Okay,
Yeah.
The first one, because in the first one, after he came back, the first thing he called me and said, Chamrat, he said, do you remember we have on our street Aksum? And I learned a lot about that part of the history. And he said, find out how to get me an obelisk. I'm going to put at the corner of 9th and U an obelisk of Aksum, he said to me. You know?
That's right. That's right. Something that we never ended up, realizing. An idea that was bounced around many people in the community, from the neighborhood, natives, and then also Ethiopians from the diaspora itself. We had many meetings. He indeed wanted to place an obelisk in representation to the obelisk that was taken and stolen at the time by the Italian invasion, and then which was eventually returned. As a matter of fact, my return in 2008 was to see the official unveiling of the return of the obelisk in Aksum, north of Ethiopia, with all of Ethiopia in the great, the Mecca of the tribe of Tigrayans.
I see. Well, it just happened 2 weeks ago. The gentleman who did that was here. He has an interview here.
I'm sorry I missed him.
You missed him.
Yes.
His name is, I forget his name, Engineer Butul. He was here, and he had also several other events in the community. It's very good to learn that. I didn't know about the second one. You see, you didn't let me know at that time because I was in North Carolina. Anyway, he wanted to do that. I mean, that was very, very impressive, and he was extremely impressed about Ethiopia. And when we had a problem of not continuing that process, I remember he brought a guy who can do a mural, and then he was trying to put also a mural of the obelisk too. It was very, very interesting. But back to the other activities which most people really admire of him is that most of the business people tell me whenever they have a problem, they have made it a point just directly call him. Any government issues come to him, he calls, and he's always tirelessly helping them. And you know what happened most of the time, so you can say about that.
Yeah, that's right. One of our the main focus of our office and the philosophy that Jim Graham ingrained in all of us, his staff, was accessibility and quick attention to his constituency. So we were very, very accessible. He himself was very, very accessible. He had a policy to returning calls immediately. He wanted to, he believed that if people were calling him, especially if people were calling him with a need, he often reminded us that it was probably the last resource to many people in great need who were looking to perhaps reconnect their electricity that had been unplugged, maybe the rent that they were behind and they were about to be evicted, and just other things that just touched many people. And this is where he is an elected official that did not stay up in the clouds. He came down to earth. He was always out in the community. He was making sure that people wasn't being evicted, that people that people were being taken care of, and I learned great lessons from him.
He was extremely helpful. The other thing also which I like to point out is, in addition to the work he has done, he was consistently working to bridge the gaps among communities. I'm so sorry, my brother.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. In 2004, we had some kind of a problem with the community.
Yes.
You know what happened. And when that happened, I recall the first thing he did was, Tamrad, I'm sure there is miscommunication among communities. If you guys take the time and the energy, as you have done to me, if you teach the community, you can change a lot of minds. And he was right. So the moment when the founding director of African Heritage and Dancer Drummer sent him an email, he communicated me, and then from that communication, we just celebrated our 12th anniversary of the Pan-African Kwanzaa and Ghana celebration. We do it every year. That was Jim Graham.
I remember. I was at the very first event.
Exactly. Well, that was huge at the Lincoln Theater. And also, if you remember, by his advisement that since the Ethiopian community is huge, he requested that I should sit as a member of the board of directors, and I was a member of the board of directors at Lincoln Theater, and the couple of others. So he has a really special feeling for Ethiopia. He reads about Ethiopian history. He says, and he knows how much the patriotic, resilient people of Ethiopia fought major wars, the two wars, and that was how he was involved. And in fact, in 2004, he could not come to one big event. We had a 3-day celebration of the 100 years. Is this thing working? I don't see anything here.
Oh, no, sorry.
It
It just goes out.
It goes out. Okay. Make sure that you don't miss, because I've seen some of them missing. Okay. All right. Good. So he sent you over there, and I remember you sat next to Congressman Elijah Cummings and late Congressman Donald Payne, and you spoke and you read resolution. So every time, consistently, when we ask something, we get it. We get resolutions, or he sends some stuff. But so it's amazing. I mean, I just can't. I don't have any word to say to Jim Graham. I mean, it's amazing, and you can say more about him.
Certainly, he is a pretty amazing individual. But then, you're speaking to me, one of the people that knew him best. As you know, he emigrated here at a very early age, 8 years of age, from Scotland. And I believe very few of his family members emigrated with his parents. And he just, we don't know of any close relatives or living relatives in the area necessarily. But who knows? Maybe somebody will come about. But you were talking about the great appreciation that he has for Ethiopia. One of the greatest things that he loved, and he kept just repeating it over and over again right after upon our return from our 2004 trip, was the not only speaking a few Amharic words, which is the unifying language of the people of Ethiopia. We are very much aware that there are many tribes, and we want to be respectful of that. And he himself wanted to be respectful of that. We are very much aware that there are many, many languages spoken within the land of Abyssinia. And so he read a lot about it. He read about Haile Selassie, as controversial as that may be. He kept repeating the title that I want to share, because he just loved it so much, not necessarily to get into any controversy, but it was the Imperial Majesty, conquering line of the tribe of Judah, King of kings and elected of God. And he would always finish saying, "What a title." And he just loved it, and then the deep appreciation that, and the kindness and warmth that Ethiopians in general, regardless what tribe you were from, he just loved it so much. We should know that Jim Graham was also a very demanding person, and he loved studying the culture and the language. So in preparation to our 2004 visit, people should know that he had me research for a teacher that would teach him Ethiopian. And then at the time he was also studying Spanish. So he's going to the Horn of Africa. And he's wanting me to find a teacher that will that not only has to speak English so he can communicate and teach him Amharic, but then he wanted to continue his Spanish lessons in Ethiopia.
A lot of work.
and he wanted the same person that was going to teach him Amharic to speak Spanish. Now, impossible task, right? How do you find somebody an Ethiopian person who speaks Amharic to teach him and Spanish at the same time? Well, nothing is really impossible, right? And for this, I just went back to a little bit of history, and I remembered, this is all within a good staff member, I guess. I remembered that during the Cuba and Ethiopia had a great relation during the 60s and 70s especially. And then there's a lot of Ethiopians that went to Cuba to study Spanish and went back. So I researched for some of those who had been in Cuba and gone back, and some of them had actually become teachers of Spanish in Ethiopia. And I found a lady who had studied in Cuba, spoke fluent Spanish, and of course was a teacher of Amharic. And I brought him to Jim, and there he was, sitting in Addis Ababa, studying both Amharic and Spanish from the same teacher.
He was really very ambitious. Well, let me tell you what exactly happened. You see, I came to this country in 1975. I came as a result of a change of government when Emperor Haile Selassie was overthrown.
Many of the diaspora is here because of the change in government.
Yes, exactly. So when the Emperor Haile Selassie was deposed and also later killed by the same junta that took over power, which you just mentioned about the Cuban relationship, because they claimed to be communist, you see, that's what happened. So they were in power for 17 years until 1991. So there are a lot of some people who speak the language because they were sent to different countries. All of a sudden, from thousands of years of monarchy to an extreme position of communism. So it was a tough time, and a lot of people also have died.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. So how was it? Tell me, what words does he speak? I know most of the time you say dana, something like that. You tell me exactly, you remember which words he mastered now. I mean, every time I told him that's what he loved, call me and say something,
Well, certainly he knew how to say, he learned to say, hello, how are you? And then, which I also learned, and I often fool a lot of Ethiopians, and I often ask them first, salam, and they respond, and I tell them, endenesh, or endemenach, depending if I'm speaking to a male or a female. I often ask some of the Ethiopians, "Amareñano," and then they speak. They immediately a big smile, comes across their face, and they engage me in Ethiopia in Amharic, and that's when I quickly try to disengage because, of course, I don't speak much more beyond that. He learned how to say thank you very much. Amasaganalo and Xavier Stalling.
That's great.
Amasken, amen.
Okay.
So and he knew a lot more because he tried to study it a lot. Secondarily, I learned how to go to bars and ask for a birra, But both of us did the historic route in Ethiopia. We visited not just Addis, but we also went to Bahardar. We also went to Aksum, Mekele, Shire, Gondar, Harar. We went to Sodere, Nasere. So we visited the borders with the region of Oromo in Kaffa. So we really took an interest in
Is that on the first trip or the second trip?
the first trip.
Okay.
The first trip. And we also, one of the other things that he also loved is that we went and visited the University of Addis. And right there in the front of the University of Addis is a symbol of great pride of the Ethiopian people. And that is I think it's either 13 or 14 step ladder. And it just cuts off on the 13th, 14th step. And right on top of it sits the great line of Judah. And it symbolizes the 13, 14 years of occupation from the Italians. Now
hold on a second, correct me. How many years goes to
the steps? Well, I'm not sure how many, but I know
the Italians were in Ethiopia only for 5 years, and they have never been really ruling the country.
No, that's where I was going.
So there should be some error, but I don't know.
I don't know, but there's about 13, 14 steps, and then you
maybe
get
you're
cut
talking
off.
about the tribes of Juba, something like that.
Maybe, but it's just a great symbol of the Ethiopian people, and that symbolizes their great pride. And Jim just loved that monument in front of the university. One of the other great things that we did is that coincidentally, during our visit in 2004, there while we were visiting the university, they have a little museum where Lucy is on display. And while we were visiting the display of Lucy and the little museum, they told us, would you like to see the real Lucy? And would you like to meet the professor that discovered Lucy? Now, for those of you that don't know, and most of your audience probably do, but for the benefit of those that don't, Lucy is the oldest remains that have been found, the oldest human remains that have been found here on Earth. And it was discovered by a Arizona University professor from here, the United States of America. He was there at the time, and we got to meet him. He took us to the basement, to a vault, and then here came out the real Lucy. And then he gave us a little postcard of Lucy, and then he dedicated one to Jim, one to myself, and autographed it. So that was a great
Did you
treat.
take picture with Lucy?
Yes, we did.
Oh, then you'll be the second. You'll be the second people who just saw it. 2 years ago, President Obama was there and he met her. So I put an article saying that President Obama met his ancient ancestor. That's 3.3 million years old.
That's right, 3.3 million years old.
Okay.
It's a true privilege.
So I hope you have those pictures. Do you? You
We have those pictures.
Yeah, please send it to me.
I'd be happy to share those pictures with you.
A story about it too. Well, that's very interesting. And then, what other places did you visit? Have you been to Gondar? Have you been to Aksum and other places?
Lalibela, formerly known as Roja. We visited the St. George's Church. In Aksum, where the Ark of the Covenant is lays. I mean, it's all just the whole history. Both Jim and I, Jim specifically, it's just so amazing to know that you were walking, perhaps specifically when we were at Lake Tana, where they both, where it's the beginning and the end of the Nile River, a historic river that runs throughout much of the African continent. and it is a river that has biblical ties. You know, it is a river that said that perhaps close to it, or at least as far as north and near Aksum, is where Mary and Jesus, you know, traveled while escaping from, you know, from persecution. So it's just an amazing story. You know, the Queen of Sheba is there. You know, the line of blood of the son of Solomon from the Holy Bible. It's just so much amazing history that Ethiopian has, and then to have its greatest concentration of Ethiopians here in the District of Columbia, we just were so elated. Jim wanted, and as a matter of fact, we supported 9th Street, the revitalization of 9th Street, which, by the way, was ignited and supported by the Ethiopian community, and then naming it subsequently Little Ethiopia, which now everybody knows.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a wonderful thing, and
It's
Jim
well
was
known,
behind each and every one of these efforts.
Well, actually, we were together on, I think, December 9th, 2013. I don't know if you were there when the signature was signed by Ethiopia's Addis Ababa mayor and the mayor of DC for the sister city agreement, and I invited him on the stage because I was on the stage. And
Adrian
we talked.
Fenty.
Yeah.
Yes,
No,
of
it was
course.
not Fenty. No. It is
Vincent Gray.
Yeah, Vincent
Yes,
Gray.
yes.
That was signed in 2013, and then right after that, they asked me to help them put together the first International Food Day. And what we did was we organized together with the city and with the mayors and also the DC school, and we had 47,000 children eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
47,000. That's
nothing
amazing.
nothing but Ethiopian food. So it was very interesting. Yeah, we had it into 111 schools, and Tete restaurant, Chef Tete was part of that. She helped us. In fact, she did an amazing inaugural lunch for them for about 60, 70 people, and it was very, very good. It is on. I'll send it to you, so you'll see it. So I mean, Jim's involvement is amazing. I mean, Jim is not only really close on and only working with Ethiopians. I mean, he is there for everybody. That's what I see, because I learned, I was a board member with Lincoln Theater, and there was another organization, we called it, what is the Downtown City? I forget. There was another board we established.
Ethiopian community?
No. It is through the city, where with Kamal and the others, we had an organization. Downtown something it was called, I forget about it. And, you know, he comes and meet with us. You know, you remember when that whole area was blocked because
That's
of the
right.
metro station. There was economical problem, and he has been actively trying to help in taxes and other issues. I remember, you know.
You can walk down the street any
Yeah.
minute of the day nowadays, especially during the weekends, in the evenings, any weekend night, and it's just a thriving community full of activities of all kinds, restaurants, bars, clubs, and just people walking in a safe way just throughout the community. You didn't see that prior to Jim Graham, so we are seeing all the great benefits.
Actually, what I remember is one time, him and I, and do you remember Nabat?
Yes, of course.
Nabat Salam, before she became the director, we put together a plan where they can have police officers to come and help. They were paid by the community. And when I left to North Carolina, I think Tutu and the others took over. I mean, he was there working with the community. He's an amazing individual. That's no question about it. So we are very, very proud to say great things about him. And also, we like to get involved with you. If you tell us more how the process is of the funeral.
Well, for the services, we're certainly, once again, we're inviting all the community, specifically the Ethiopian community who he loved so much. We are encouraging, where able, if and possible, to wear your traditional robes and customs, because he loved it so much. As a matter of fact, he had some of his own that he proudly would display at the different events that he would come along with the Ethiopian community. So the Ethiopian community, please come. It'll be next Friday. Share some last moments together with our late council member Jim Graham, and wear your traditional costumes. He would love to see you there, share some remarks if you are so willing on Friday afternoon at the Wilson Building. And then on Saturday, come be part of a viewing at All Souls Church in Columbia Heights, and then a brief mass that we will have on his memory, along with all members of the community across the city, elected officials, and anybody beyond.
All right, thank you so much. But let me ask you a couple of more things. After he came 2008, did you do directly something related with the Italian embassy? I mean, the Italian government? Did he try? Did he make attempts to see if they can?
Oh, we wish. No,
Yeah.
we were not. Our tentacles don't reach that far.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something that, as a matter of fact, this is something that with the return of the obelisk, you mean?
Yeah.
No, we had nothing to do with that. That was the Ethiopian will and their determination of the Ethiopian people itself. I don't think Jim would take or would want me to express or attempt to take any credit for that. That was the Ethiopian people itself. They had been fighting for that for the past, I think, couple of decades. It was nothing that happened overnight. You know, as we know, and for your audience and those who don't know, the obelisk, after it was taken from Ethiopia, it was placed in a piazza in Rome, and it was proudly displayed there as an item of conquer to them, but not to the Ethiopian people. It was an insult to the Ethiopian people, and I think I add my name and myself to that, and Jim, of course, that it was an insult to anybody's in any culture to take something that is endemic of a people and a culture and a land, and then take it away and proudly display it as a symbol of invasion. It's just the wrong thing for history. It's wrong for the people of Ethiopia and all its tribes. And we were very much happy, and I was very much happy to be part of that, the return and the unveiling of the return of the obelisk in Aksum.
By the way, how does he get his time? What time does he raise in the morning? I mean, how do you get it? I mean, every time I have sent him 2 or 3 emails, I got a return, and I'm sure he gets it from everywhere.
Jim was very religious, and this is no secret, that he would get up at around 6 o'clock in the morning and immediately head on to his computer and start responding to the hundreds of emails that he would receive daily. And somehow he was able to get through all that in a couple of hours. And then by between 9 and 10, he was already in the office, ready to go and start his day. Now, he would also do a disclaimer in the bottom of every email saying that, if you send him an email, he'll make sure to answer daily within the next 24 hours. But those were his peak hours when he would get into the computer between about 6 to 8, 7 and 9, and all his emails would be responded within 24 hours.
So he didn't delegate that to you guys, huh?
No. It was something that he would do himself. Many people think that it must be a matter that would have been delegated for him to be so efficient. But no, that was Jim Graham himself who was answering each and every one of your emails.
Well, to mention some of the things he has done for us, I remember in 2004 you came, and 3 years later we were celebrating the Ethiopian millennium. That was in September, and I called Jim. It was a very short notice, actually. It came to my mind. Everybody was out to celebrate the Ethiopian millennium. We have different kind of programs, so it came to my mind. Well, why don't I see if I can invite a representative of Washington D.C. and a family member of the Ethiopian monarch and an African American and play threes in front of the African American. It was, a quick thing, and I called his office, and I remember how fast.
You have all the right ideas, Sam,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You got to keep them coming,
Yeah.
and make sure that, now that Jim is gone, make sure that our current elected officials get involved and not just come and sit and be part of a ceremony. That's the easiest thing to do. They need to get down to the ground. They need to come see us, see what is it that makes us tick in the immigrant communities and those communities that are most in need. So I hope, But of course, I continue to stay involved, and I hope that the Ethiopian community in general stays involved as well, because it is so important to stay engaged. And the only way that our voices are going to be heard is if we are right there, and have a place at the table so that our voices can be heard and action can be taken.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I was going to say was something. At that time also, I asked him, Jim, is there any way that we heard that there was a gift given by the emperor to the Washingtonians? You remember the elephant tusk?
Yes.
And
yes,
I mean,
yes.
he contacted the chairman of the council. He made an arrangement, and at that time we had an Ethiopian woman who's leading. She was the first, actually, the first.
Linda Kropp.
Yes, she was
her
that.
name.
But Leonard Kropp was. What happened was I and Andrew Lawrence. You remember Andrew
Yes,
Lawrence?
of
He's
course.
a very active guy. We both appeared for a hearing to help on the Duke revitalization program. Do you remember that?
I remember completely.
And she, when we sat down and when she started speaking to us, she said, I am very, very, very proud to be the keeper of His Imperial Majesty's gift. And she told us what happened. So after that, I requested in 2007
To see it.
to see it. So Jim made an arrangement. It came there and everywhere, right there. And it was amazing. It's,
We were together, I remember. Yes, it's an elephant tusk
Yes.
that was given during, I think it was perhaps the only visit that Haile Selassie made to Washington, D.C., and it was a gift given to the city of the District of Columbia. And it still sits in the main conference room of the council members, and it's prominently displayed there. Well, I should say that it sat there up until 2010 when I left. So I hope that it remains there still. So we got a little research to do.
You see what happened? Number one, it was stolen. It was stolen. We just couldn't. We tried our best to see what now we are gonna do as a result. It was stolen. The interesting thing I was gonna mention is that, which I want to tell you, that gift was given when the emperor came to the United States for the first time. That was his first state visit. The emperor has been in Washington for 7 times. 6 times he came as a state visit. He visited President Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, and President Nixon 3 times. And then finally, after he came here, the President Kennedy was assassinated. The emperor came back and attended his funeral.
Yeah.
So there's a great, great link with the city. That's what we are, right now we are very proud to be part of the city because we are sister cities where we do lots of programs.
Yes, of
I mean, we
course.
do lots of things. We make sure that the chief of protocol, Patricia, Elms know what we are doing. But that thing have been stolen, and I'm glad that in Washington Post there was an article which says that after I requested, Jim said to them that after Tamra requested, after he lobbied, in fact, he said, we put it in a special place. But what happened? Is there any way you can know about that thing later? But, because this is, if he was alive, this is what he wants to see.
That's right, and I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of it. So, to quote him, all we need to do is muster the will so that we can get things done and spring into action. I'm sure it's got to be somewhere. It was there, it belongs, it's a patrimony of the District of Columbia, and it should be prominently displayed so that all can appreciate.
Okay, so what you are telling me that he doesn't have real immediate family member other than the staff members now? Is that what is?
That is my understanding.
Yeah.
Yes. Developments may come up. Right now, we're just concentrated in getting through this something dignifying of Councilmember Graham and what he meant to us in terms of funeral services.
Yeah.
That's what I'm concentrated in right now, and. As far as I know, I never knew. I've known Jim Graham, and I believe that it is no secret that I am a close friend of his and a confidant. And in almost 2 decades, I don't know of any blood family members. I have not met him, and I've been, and I saw him last, and we talked last about 2 weeks ago.
So, how often do you meet now? Do you have a command center where you're gonna sit down and plan?
Well,
Have you contacted some of the Ethiopian friends? If you recall, I introduced Jim Graham, Henok for the first time. I remember that was in 2000 something, and then after that, Tutu has been actively engaged with him. Have you contacted these people and see if they?
We've talked to Tutu.
Okay.
Of course, I've been throughout the years in contact with Hanok and Yared and Jimmy and his whole family from Etete and U Street Parking, but I have not talked to them lately. They have not reached out to me direct. They have my number.
Okay. Well, what I want to make sure that I have already contacted the Ethiopian Church, if they can make some kind of special arrangement, if there is any. So we like to make sure that the Ethiopian community is really engaged with Jim Graham. Jim Graham was an asset for our community. I mean, he is the only elected official, I can say, one of the only elected officials who opened up his door for the community. If you remember, one time we had a meeting, especially and earlier. When did you start with him? Did you start around 2000?
2000.
Yeah, okay. I remember, when I was contacted, if I correctly remember, the first time I was contacted with him was at the time in 2000. There was a big move within the community that there was an organization was established called Ethiopian American Constituency, where the community put together themselves so that they can raise funds for Vice President Gore at that time. And then I got a call. If I recall correctly, it's from one of the community centers. Either you went to there on Georgia Avenue or Jim. Then that's how we started the relationship with Jim.
I'm not sure how our relationship started, Tamrat, but it goes back many years.
Yeah, but the reason I'm saying is that because when we were involved with the city at that time, our community was more involved with the Congress rather than because of immigration issues in the past, you see. But that was the time. I mean, he changed the whole situation with the relationship with your office. So I hope other members also hear this and learn from this, and then now we have to concentrate how we just do the farewell to him very well. Right.
Yeah. Well, I think many people will agree that that's what Jim was about. Tectonic and titanic shifts in the way things were done here in the District of Columbia.
And there were other community groups. Sometimes we have meetings with the Spanish group and the other groups, and are they all being organized or?
We're on top of all that as we speak, Tam.
Fantastic.
We're getting it all together as best we can, under the circumstances, of course. Yes.
Fantastic.
So,
fantastic. Did you get any pictures, Sonny? You did? Okay, good. Send us some, okay? You can speak about him when he sees pictures. He's going to show us some pictures.
You mean?
This is Council Member Jim Graham.
Right, of course. One of the things that you will hear and read a lot about is, as we can appreciate in this photo, he was well known for his flamboyant suits, and then accompanied by his bow ties and psychedelic glasses. This was a signature of him, and of course when driving around throughout the ward. By the way, we're sitting in Ward 1 right now in Georgia Avenue, and this great revitalization that we have experienced in the past few years are all thanks to this man. So you can see him in his VW Bug, Volkswagen.
The famous VW Bug. Yeah.
Right. With his, it was a convertible. He loved the spring, the summer, and most of the fall, because he can have his top down. And then he's able to engage with people as he drove around. He never wasted an opportunity to engage people, even as he drove down the street. He would drive slow, make sure he would say hi to people. He would just stop in the middle of nowhere, make sure, if people had something to say. It just didn't matter if he had a meeting with someone very important. To him, the most important people were his constituents. So he would just pull over the side of the road, and, that was more important to him than any cocktail party or meeting or anything else.
What is this?
Jim, being a funny guy, as often he was, and again, you can see him with his glasses and his bow tie.
Did you get some more, guys? Two more? Okay.
So
Well,
I'm sure there will be other opportunities where we'll have perhaps a little video that we'll
I
put
think
together.
the best thing is maybe I
bring
can
some
have you
pictures.
next week.
Sure.
Can we be able to get picture
after when we
after
get
the-
after the funeral services?
After the funeral, because I know our friend Andrew has lots of pictures because he has been in many of our events, and in some of the hearings we have. We need to put together something so that.
Yes, of course.
Lady
I remember
Mr.
Andrew, and
Yeah.
please give my regards. I hope he's able to share some of those with us as well.
Yes, he will. I'm sure, but I didn't give him notice. So, see, I called the office, the council office. I don't think they have anything. They don't have any archive. I don't know if there is any way we can get some archive from the council also, because we like to put some, historical perspective, which will help us share his legacy.
Right. Some people have inquired about that. I believe that that'll be sort of a medium to long-term goal, because we want to make sure that a production of something good is put together for him that is representative of the different communities and lives that he touched. Ethiopian community is one of them. But certainly, and I'm sure that there will be perhaps different productions that we'll put together. The more, the merrier. But yes, we are already talking in conversations with different individuals that are interested in a production of a video, with some testimonials and whatnot. And we'll be happy to share some of those experiences, videos, and photos with you, so the Ethiopian community can do their own, perhaps, testimonial video production.
Yeah, I remember there are many, many occasions when we appeared at the council hearing, including the language. Oh, by the way, the language access card. Can you tell us about that? I mean, you were involved, and I have sent two people. Never tell us about the language access card. You were involved. Give us that. That's a very important.
Very much involved. Yes. So the Language Access Act was put into law in 2006, I believe it was. And I'll just quickly let you know that this took about a little over a year of a project where we were one of the leading cities in the United States of America where it was legislated that public services needed to be provided in 4 different languages, and those were Spanish, Vietnamese, Amharic, and French.
Yeah, 6 languages.
I think there were 2 additional languages were incorporated later on, but I think we started with 4. And that was, of course, an effort of Councilmember Graham. He made healthcare services accessible to all people, especially those most in need of health services here in the District of Columbia, including immigrants, regardless of their immigration status. And of course, the Ethiopian community, Latino communities, and others took great benefit from those actions from the council member.
That took a long time, actually.
Yeah.
And how about he also was involved with the office? Initially, we wanted to have Ethiopian Office of African Affairs. That was the initial plan. But when you to African, and he was also involved in that. I mean, anything that
he was not just involved. He led that fight.
Yeah.
These were all babies that were incubated and born out of the office of Councilmember Jim Graham.
It's amazing. Amazing. Do you have? We are almost what? We have a couple of minutes. We have a couple of minutes. So, tell us something. You need to tell us what would say.
Well, that Jim Graham, we want to. Jim was always a happy person. To those of us who knew him, he was somebody who was very happy to be who he was. Besides being just a wonderful individual, he's an individual with a great career as a professional. I mean, just imagine he was a staffer for the former Chief Justice Warren. he was to record all his memoirs before Chief Justice Warren passed away. Chief Warren, for those who don't know, was the person in charge of who conducted the only investigation in the John F. K. Assassination. And Jim Graham has, by a twist of faith,
Come on in.
a twist of faith, is linked to that historic fact. By
Well, I'd like to bring your family. Come on here. Join us.
thank you.
Join us. Join
Yeah.
us. I mean, my friend, he has been working. How many children you have? 5?
Yes, for my children here, and
Yes.
one of them who couldn't be here, my wife, is here
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
Of course.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Liha, you're not in the picture,
Yes,
so
I am.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you are? Okay,
You
yes,
know,
you are.
this is you have been working hard, and while you are raising these children, and I remember how many times you've gone with Jim Graham to many places.
That's right. It hasn't been easy for them, but they are very understanding. As a matter of fact, they know and do know Jim Graham. They grew up with Jim Graham, and they are feeling very much the loss of a great friend and family member. We were his family, or part of his family.
Amazing, it's amazing. I mean, you've been many times out with him, and you work late, and sometimes I see you and
And my family here has paid part of that price. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Are we done, sir? Thank you so much.
All right.
Hey. You finished? Okay. The last thing, please remember, check us on check us on littleethiopia.org, littleethiopia.org, our webpage. And today, our co-host Patricia is having her son's graduation party, and she's not attending, but she'll be coming next week. We'll be together with her, and within the next couple of weeks, we're gonna bring him back to give us more information about our dearest friends, Council Member Jim Graham. He was an amazing guy, a great friend of the Ethiopian community and the community at large. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay.